We're going to start out with some important background information. What is a subject? The subject in a sentence is the agent that performs the action of the verb. So here we have a couple of English examples. I walk the dog, my mom made me dinner last night, and there are a few more. But basically, you can see that those are the people or the things or whatever that is doing the action in the sentence, and it's usually the first word or set of words within a statement. Now our next big term is subject pronoun. If we know that a pronoun is a word that can replace another word within a sentence, we can figure out that a subject pronoun is a word that replaces the subject within a sentence. Now I did provide the chart of English subject pronouns, but I'm not going to get too much into that. But sometimes it does help to compare these things. So I would encourage you guys just to take a quick look at this chart. So here comes the part I know you've all been waiting for. Now's the time that we're going to look at the Spanish subject pronoun. So we do have a singular and then a plural column, and we do have to pay attention to those first, second, and third person perspective. Starting with first person singular, we have yo. And that's like I in English, and that's used when the speaker is the subject talking about their own actions. Next is tú, and we also have usted. These are both second person singular forms. They are used when you are talking directly to the subject about their actions, kind of like you in English. Now these are not interchangeable because tú is informal, whereas usted is formal. We will get a little bit more into that in a little bit. And then we have third person singular subject pronouns. We have two of them. We have él and ella. And that is when you are talking about the subject. So él translates to he in English and ella translates to she. Now let's take a look at the plural side. So for first person plural, we have nosotros and nosotras. The difference between these two will only come down to gender. So nosotros would be used with a group of all males, whereas nosotras would be used with a group of all females. If you have a group of mixed gender, you would use nosotros. So this would translate to mean we in English, and that's when the speaker's included in the subject, but is not the only agent. So some examples of that could be my mom and I, my friends and I, something like that, where the speaker's part of the subject, but there are other people or things as well. On to second person plural, we have vosotros and vosotras. The difference between vosotros and vosotras is similar to the way we distinguish between nosotros and nosotras, in that vosotros is used for either mixed gender or all males, and vosotras is used for all females. And there is another second person plural term that is ustedes. And these two terms are very different from one another. We will get into that in a little bit, but you can kind of think of this column as the plural of the previous column, the second person singular column, and that's when you're talking directly to the subject, kind of like saying you guys or you all. Now, the final two subject pronouns are third person plural. We have ellos and ellas. And this is when you are talking about the subject, kind of like they in English. And once again, that ellos, ellas distinction comes down to mixed gender or all males for ellos, and ellas would be a group of all females. So as we kind of have already seen, the perspective is important when we're thinking about subject pronouns. We not only have to take into consideration who is doing what, but we also have to think about its relationship to the speaker. And you can kind of see the perspective on the chart from the previous slide when it breaks it down by first person, which is, for example, the subject is as close to the speaker as possible. Basically, the speaker is the subject or is included in the subject. Second person, kind of think about 1 degree of separation. The speaker is 1 degree away from the subject, so that would be the speaker is talking directly to the subject. And then third person, the speaker is even further away from the subject, which means that the speaker is talking about the subject. So if you think about it, Ms. Hernandez or myself could possibly be replaced by 3 different subject pronouns, depending on the perspective. It would be I in English or yo in Spanish if I'm talking about myself. You or tú/usted if the speaker is talking directly to me. And it would be she or ella if the speaker is talking about me. So there are a couple final things to clarify, and the first of those is this distinction between vosotros and ustedes. And you can kind of separate these two terms in 2 different ways. you can separate them by 1, what happens in Spain, and 2, what happens in the other Spanish-speaking countries. So that means all the other countries that speak Spanish minus Spain. So Spain uses vosotros almost as the plural of tú. So that would be their way of informally saying you all. And then they use ustedes as the plural of usted. So that would be their way of formally saying you all. And then all the other Spanish-speaking countries of the world just use ustedes as the plural form of both tú and usted. So it's both formal and informal. It is the only way to say you all, and that is the form I use. And the last thing to touch base on is what is formal versus informal. Well, informal words are the ones that you're going to want to use with your friends, family, people you are familiar with or you know well, pets, people who are kind of younger than you or maybe who don't have quite as high of a status as you do. And then formal words are the ones you're going to want to use when you are trying to show respect to people who are older than you, your superiors, such as your teachers, boss, principal, president, etc., or people you just don't know very well. And if you're ever in doubt, just go ahead and be formal because formality is your friend. It's better to be formal from the get-go and be overly polite and have somebody tell you, no, you don't need to do that, than to offend somebody. Because after all, you definitely would not want to end up like this.